welcome back to another Money Tip Monday. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. And if you're new to this awesome channel, my name is Lizy Hoeffer and I teach practical money tips so that you can make the best and smartest home purchases and investments. Today on Money Tip, I'm going to be answering a frequently brought up topic on how much house can one person really afford. There's very extreme opinions on this, and you definitely want to subscribe to this if you want more awesome money tips in the future. Now, it might surprise you that I am a loan officer who doesn't believe that every single person should own a home, okay? I'm not one of those people. I think that there's instances in life where if you have way too much credit card debt, I think you should be renting a room or living with family. I think that if you live in a city where, rents and owning a house is astronomical, I think it doesn't always pencil out, right? I think that overall, your goal should be to consistently save and invest your funds, right? And if real estate is a vehicle for you to, live in a place that's pretty similar to what the rent is, or if not, a little bit more expensive or a little bit less expensive. I mean, I can tell you that there's some places that it's cheaper to own a house than to rent a house here in Phoenix, right? I definitely am a proponent to that. But if you are somebody with a ton of debt, it's better to get out of debt first. Now, as a loan officer, I am going to be concerned with your gross monthly income because that's how mortgages are qualified. But you as a consumer should definitely have your monthly budget set, and you should know what you feel comfortable making in terms of monthly payment. So it is your responsibility, I believe, to make sure that you know what that number is for you, right? So having said that though, I do want to describe what it takes to qualify for a mortgage because there are some people that just want to know what those guidelines look like. There is a lot of technology that goes into underwriting a home loan, right? And so almost every single borrower is entered into this underwriting system, and it's based on your likelihood to repay on their algorithm, right? And so way smarter people than I develop that underwriting system. And so that's a lot of what we use today. Now, it's not the only underwriting method, right? So I will talk to you about a manual underwrite, which is how we manually determine if you're eligible to qualify. And we are going to use conservative guidelines like the rule of 28 and 36. That's the manual debt to incomes, right? So your overall debt to what your gross income is, right? To qualify you for a home loan. And then there's various ones based on whether or not it's government financing, whether or not it's jumbo financing. So the most conservative housing ratios are going to be, and so that's your house payment to your overall gross income, are going to be in the range of 28% to 31%. Okay, so those are your most conservative. And then your overall debt to income ratio, so all the debt plus the housing versus your income, is going to be in the ballpark between 36% and 45%, right? So if your home loan, right, didn't make it through the automated approval system, these are the ratios that we're typically going to go off of. There are cases when we can go up into the 50s, but we have to see significant compensating factors like lots of money in the bank, no other discretionary, bills like credit cards, right? There's a variety of different ways, maybe a secondary job that we can't use for income qualifying purposes. So I just want you to know you can go up to 50%, right? But there has to be real valid reasons behind that. Now, on the automated approvals though, it's variable. It varies depending on your particular situation. I've seen approvals as high as, 50, just under 57% for a debt ratio on a government loan. And I've seen as high as 50% on a conventional loan, right? A lot of it's going to depend on your payment history, what you have in the bank, how high your credit is. And the better those items, the more they'll give you flexibility on these qualifying ratios. Now, there's so many different passionate opinions about mortgage qualifying, and I'm not telling you that just because you can qualify for a maximum amount, you should spend a maximum amount. That is not what I'm saying, and I do not believe because mortgage debt to income ratios are more flexible than, financial philosophies means that we're destroying the economy and putting people in loans that they shouldn't be in. I think it's up to you as the consumer to be responsible for what you feel comfortable paying on a monthly basis, because you're going to be the one that truly understands that, right? You're going to be the one that makes sacrifices to work two jobs, right? to have a $100,000 return in 15 years. So I just want you to know that I'm just giving you the facts, and I believe that it's up to you, right, to put these things into practice. Now, how not to end up house poor? You're gonna need a budget. And a budget isn't just this is what I spent this past month. A budget is, this is what I'm not going to exceed in spending this month. My personal philosophy is that your housing payment should not exceed a third of what your actual net take-home income is, and that overall your total debt picture, including the house payment, shouldn't exceed 70%, because I like 30% to either go strictly towards savings or to do a 10% towards savings and 20% towards debt reduction if you carry a lot of debt. The other thing is, I think it's super important to buy a house with a saving strategy. I think you should have, at a minimum 1 month reserves, but typically I think it should be anywhere between 3 and 6 months reserves in a bank. And it doesn't have to be your savings or checking account. It can be a 401k that you can borrow from in case of a hardship. But you should know how you're going to access funds, because when you buy a house, it's Murphy's Law. Something is going to happen. You're going to need to replace a water heater. You're going to need to, fix a roof. You're going to need to replace a window, you name it. But ultimately, all of those repair expenses, the deferred maintenance on your house, that's all going to be your responsibility. Now, on to my personal financial strategy. I learned 2 very valuable lessons from my mom's real estate journey. One is, it sucks to be house poor. 2, you can make major bucks if you hold real estate property for a very long period of time. In my mom's case, that was our childhood home, right? So she owned that property 24 years, right? So almost a whole 30-year mortgage, okay? Now what's awesome is, in that time, she actually paid down the home, but it did earn over 6 figures in return, right? Which is life-changing for some people. In fact, it was life-changing for us. If, 6-figure return on anything, if you're not a millionaire, is life-changing for anyone, okay? So unfortunately for me, as a young adult, I was like, oh my God, all I have to do is buy real estate property, hang on to it. I'm gonna make 6 figures. And because of that, I lost big time. I was like, the dumbest thing ever. I bought with a 0 down product where I only paid my closing costs. Okay, stupid move number 1. I didn't have my own funds in my down payment. Number 2, I didn't have any reserve funds, and I was counting on the rental income of my brother to make this investment very affordable, okay? So you can naturally tell that this was like the worst move ever, okay? So I did that. I bought my second property with a down payment with 6 months of reserves, because I was not going to be house poor. I could have more than afforded the mortgage, and I also had a roommate, right? Just to add in addition to. But everything was in addition to. I could afford everything on my own, okay? I ended up netting $80,000 on a $7,000 investment, okay? So between the loss of my first condo, which was around $55,000, and the net gains of this $80,000, I was super ahead, right? So we're talking about $25,000. I never would have been able to save that in my 20s on my own, especially because I started off barely being able to afford my mortgage. So this is my personal philosophy, having lived twice in my life house poor and knowing how sucky that is, and being able to prevent that from happening now with the right amount of skin in the game and the right amount of debt service, which for me is no more than 70% of your net take-home income. So if you have additional questions, want to send me a personal message, want me to do a more in-depth video on this, let me know in the comments below. And thank you guys again for tuning in and liking and subscribing to this channel.